If you need to memorize a speech word for word, then this video is going to be for you. With a lot of speeches and presentations, you may only need to memorize a blueprint or have a checklist of information you need to give. But when it comes to doing it word for word, then it's a little bit different. So in this video, I'm going to give you an easy technique that you can implement straight away so that you don't need to worry about forgetting your speeches ever again. So let's get to it. Now, I do see a lot of people online giving advice about memorizing speeches, and a lot of them say not to do it for word. But when I began doing coaching in general and presenting in front of a camera in front of crowds, well, if I didn't memorize my speeches in the beginning, I wouldn't have a clue on how to do it. And I wouldn't be able to get up there and give so many different explanations because I wouldn't have understood them or had them saved in my mind. And whether it's to do public speaking or whether it's to do a casting for a video shoot, sometimes memorizing word for word can be very important. Now, the technique that I use is something that I've coined as mass verbatim, and it's not what you think it is. And it works incredibly well because it just activates the power of focus. Sometimes focus is all you really need to be able to burn that information into your mind for you to be able to remember it long term. So let's get into the technique and how it works. Step number one is we want to take our speech in front of us and have a fresh piece of paper or a journal or a notebook or whatever we use to write down and just get something to write down with. Okay, that's step number one. Step number two is for every sentence at a time, just one sentence at a time, we want to write down the first letter of every word. Okay, step number two is write down the first letter of every word of one sentence at a time. And make sure to keep in grammar, keep in punctuation, just like it is in the actual speech. So let's pretend we have to do Shakespeare's play Hamlet. So the opening phrase is to be or not to be. That is the question. So we'd write it down like this. Now the third step is we want to try to remember what the words are from just looking at the letters on our page. So we look at it, T-B-O-N-T-B. Okay, to be or not to be, that is the question. Okay, and if you need any help, then you can look at the piece of paper just to cue your mind again for what that information is and go back again to the letters. So then when you feel like you can read the letters and what the words are from them, then we can just look away and try to remember what it was. To be or not to be, that is the question. Now when it comes to this specific line, most of us know it anyway. It's a pretty famous line. But as you get further into it, there's a lot of stuff you're not going to know. So then we would go to the next sentence. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer. So we would write down W''T N-I-T-M-T-S. And then again, we would look at the letters to try to remember the words. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer. And if you need any help again, you can look back at the original speech as you'll try to read the letters and try to remember it. Then when you feel like you have the letters down, look away and try to remember it off the top of your head. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer. Great, got it. We can move on to the next sentence. And then as you start doing it, make sure to go through it from the beginning, straight through all the way again. And this is going to start burning that information into your mind. Now, I did this technique for my 15-minute TED Talk. I also incorporated a bit of a memory palace and some other little things, but the main technique I used was this one, the mass verbatim technique. So it's powerful, it works. So depending on what you need to memorize, how long it is, this technique works really, really well. So just to recap, we want to get a fresh sheet of paper or a notebook or something that we were going to write in. We want to get the speech or whatever we're trying to memorize right next to it. We want to write down the first letter of every word, keeping in grammar and punctuation. We want to try and read those letters and see what the words are in our mind. Then when we feel like we've got the words down from just the letters, we look away and try to remember it from there. If you need a cue, look back to the letters or look back to the word. This is just going to focus our mind and it's going to burn that information in. So please let me know how it goes in the comments. I'd like to hear how you guys find this technique. And just as a little PS on the side, I taught 2 other TEDx speakers this technique to be able to memorize their speeches as well. And they found that they could just memorize it effortlessly and without a lot of deep work time at all. It took one of them about 2.5, 3 hours to memorize their entire talk just from doing this mass verbatim technique. So on that note, good luck, let me know how it goes, and I'll see y'all next time.